Monster Hunter, the series where you play as one of many hunters tasked with building the best armor and the strongest weapons to help them with slaying some of the most terrifying creatures in this unforgiving world. This game is one of Capcom's biggest modern titles to sweep most nations, so big in fact that its main mascot, Rathalos, has found its way into so many different other worlds, including Smash itself. But even though the King of All Dragons made it to Smash to be slain by its fighters, we're still missing the very hunter who made it their job to do the actual slaying. So as such, today we'll be covering the Monster Hunter, coming to Smash in search of new things to eat and more materials to make awesome new armor and weapons. So getting right into things, the Monster Hunter would be a pretty heavy fighter with slightly sluggish mobility. They'd have 2 jumps, and they would be able to both wall jump and crawl. So there's a few things to talk about before I go over the Monster Hunter's attacks. For starters, there's a wide assortment of weapons that a Monster Hunter can choose to equip. However, for this moveset, I'm going to be sticking solely with the most iconic weapon, the Great Sword. Each hunter can only use one type of weapon per mission, and cannot use a different one until they return to the camp and switch it out themselves. If I do use other weapon varieties for Smash, it can be for other Monster Hunter movesets that I wouldn't mind making in the future, but only if enough of you want that. Also yes, I'm aware that Monster Hunter made a playable appearance in the fighting game Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, but unlike how I handled Phoenix Wright, I did not look at Marvel at all to build this moveset. But being real here, I didn't even need to. Even when only using attacks from the Great Sword alone, there is more than enough to work with from the Monster Hunter games to fill out a whole moveset. In any which case, since the Great Sword is the weapon that I'm focusing on for this moveset, that does mean that Monster Hunter will be a character with very slow attacks, but amazing reach and fantastic power. But even though each hunter is limited to only one weapon per expedition, they do all carry around another tool with them no matter what they use, a carving knife. So I will be incorporating that as well, among other things. So the super powerful slow attacks will use the Great Sword, but the quicker weak attacks will use the carving knife. So as such, when I say it's the sword being used, just assume it's powerful but has bad frame data, and if it's the knife, then assume that it has great frame data at the cost of being weaker. So getting right into things, Monster Hunter will have a 2-hit jab that simply has the hunter swing their knife horizontally back and forth from left to right. The dash attack can be a leaping overhead sword slash from back to front, with the sword hitting the ground. This was a draw attack used in Monster Hunter Generations while in the aerial style of combat specifically. And while it's slow, it is able to hit foes above Monster Hunter as the sword goes overhead, so that's a plus. The side tilt can have Monster Hunter use the side blow, an attack where the hunter quickly smacks forwards with the flat side of the Great Sword. This will be the fastest Great Sword attack in terms of frame data, but as such, it will also be the weakest. The up tilt can be an innovated attack that has Monster Hunter stab their carving knife straight upwards for a quick vertical anti-air attack. And the down tilt can be a nerfed version of the ground slash art from Generations, which was a sword sweep across the ground from slightly back to front. Now for the side smash, this will be a very unique type of move for the Monster Hunter. In their games, the strongest swings done by the Great Sword were the charge slashes, and the hunter was able to do 3 of these one after another, being able to charge each one between each swing. So I'll be incorporating that same thing for the hunter's side smash. Each swing involves smashing the sword into the ground from back to front with an overhead swing, with the exception of that final hit, which will actually have the hunter smash the ground twice with a flip in between. So really, this is a 4-hit smash attack. And after each swing, with the exception of the final one, you can do one of 3 things. You could either just stop, you can do the next swing, or you can begin charging up the next swing, with each being much more powerful than the last. So this is a smash that requires a lot of dedication. However, if you're in the middle of charging either the second or third attacks only, you can actually cancel them by pressing the special button to have Monster Hunter do a quick tackle forwards instead. This tackle only does some minor damage to foes, but it can be useful if you see someone running up on you and if you don't think your sword will be able to hit them on time. Of course, it's just good for getting out of situations that you don't want to be a part of in general. Oh, and I should also mention, all 3 swings of the side smash do have super armor during the actual swings only. Now for the up smash, it can have the hunter use the rising slash attack, a powerful move that has them swing their sword overhead from front to back. And the down smash can have the hunter use the wide slash, a single spin with the greatsword close to the ground with it hitting in front first, then behind. For the aerials, the neutral air can have the hunter use the Moonbreaker art from Generations, an attack that has them spin a single time while swinging their sword outwards. This has some incredible reach and will launch foes on contact. The forward air can have them swing the sword overhead from back to low front, the mid-air charge slash attack that the greatsword uses in the games. This is an attack that's capable of spiking foes. For the back air, this can have the hunter take their carving knife and swing it vertically from high to low behind themselves. This references when you use your knife backwards while hanging on a wall or vines in their game. The up air can be the charged rising slash, a vertical sword swing from low front to high backwards, specifically the version of it used while sliding down a slope in World. And the down air can be the second attack that can be used right after the rising slash, the plunging thrust, where the hunter falls straight down while holding the tip of their greatsword downwards. Now, something I would like to make mention of for the greatsword attacks is that a lot of the end lag could be cancelled with a dodge roll, just like in the Monster Hunter games. But best be careful to use it wisely, otherwise your opponent will be able to predict what it is you're doing when you're rolling. Not to mention the fact that dodge rolling too much will make you more vulnerable. To grab opponents, the Monster Hunter will make use of one of their newest toys in Monster Hunter World, the Clutch Claw. This can be a tether grab for the hunter in Smash, one that can be used as a tether recovery as well as an additional attack when used in the air. For the pummel, the hunter will slash at the foe with their carving knife, just like they do to monsters after mounting them. For the forward throw, it can have the hunter body check the foe forwards with a tackle. The back throw can have the hunter pull the foe behind themselves and kick them backwards. The up throw can have the hunter catapult the foe into the air with the greatsword, and the down throw can have the hunter pin the foe down and stab at them a few times with their knife to rack up damage before kicking them away. Now for the Monster Hunter's special attacks, these are going to allow them to incorporate the various tools that help them on their hunt. For the neutral special, this will have them use their Slinger, introduced in Monster Hunter World. A part of the same device as the Clutch Claw, the Slinger allows the hunter to shoot various kinds of ammunition to give them the edge in battle. Tapping the special button will have the hunter shoot a single projectile forwards that's affected by gravity and deal small flinching damage. As for what this projectile is, well, the hunter will actually have 5 different types for this moveset, all of which have varying effects. Holding down the special button instead of tapping it will pull up a menu by the hunter's damage icon that shows what ammunition you're currently using. It looks just like the item menu that you can shift through in the Monster Hunter games. Pressing left or right on the control stick will allow you to change it around. Just one tap from the control stick will rotate the ammunition. Holding down the control stick will not rotate it, however, only tapping will. This way you won't accidentally overshoot your pick. All but one of the ammunition have limited uses, and once you run out of one, you can't use that ammo again. All of the ammo will automatically refill, however, whenever you lose a stock and respawn. As for what the ammo is, the default is stone ammo, the basic one that only deals damage, and that's it. But this is also the only one that you have an unlimited supply of, so that's the trade-off. The next are flash pods, which you only have 3 of per stock. These are flash grenades that explode into a flash of blinding light when they make contact with something. These will incapacitate monsters in their game, stunning them. So they'll do the same for Smash, being able to make any foe dizzy for a bit if they're caught in the flash while standing on the ground. If the flash hits a foe while they're in the air, then they'll be forced into a helpless freefall. The third will be sleep knives, which quite obviously put foes to sleep if they're hit by them. These also only have 3 uses per stock. The fourth can be poison knives. Again, fairly obvious. They poison foes for 10 seconds, and they have 5 uses per stock. And the final and most nope of the ammo can be dung pods. I hope you brought a plastic baggie. In Monster Hunter, shooting monsters with these will repel them, making them want to flee from the smell. For Smash, hitting foes with these will do 2 things. First, they reverse the foe's controls for 1 second, as if their character is trying to get away from the smell. It's only 1 second, sure, but that's enough to possibly disorient anyone. And the other thing it'll do is cause the foe to take 1.3 times extra damage from all attacks for 10 seconds while they're covered in the foul odor. They'll also probably want to take a shower afterwards. Anyways, for the side special, this will have Monster Hunter use a barrel bomb. These are fairly straightforward. They're bombs, shaped like barrels, so don't let Donkey Kong near them, though I can see King K. Rool having some fun with that. Pressing side special will have the hunter simply place the barrel on the ground in front of himself, and it'll remain there for 10 seconds before automatically exploding. The bomb will automatically explode sooner, however, if it's hit by any attack, and it'll also automatically explode sooner if the special is used in the air, exploding as soon as it hits the ground. The explosion itself deals big damage and knockback to anybody too close, including the hunter, but they do get a bit of privilege for this attack. If they're caught up in the barrel bomb's explosion, they'll only take a quarter of the damage that the foe takes and will not be launched by it either, effectively having super armor through their own bombs. But this only applies until they reach 100% of damage or higher. Once they have that, then the explosions will affect them in the same way that it affects everybody else. You can also have up to 2 barrel bombs on the stage at a time. If you try to place a third one, then nothing will happen. Now for the up special, this is going to be an interesting one. I'm going to call it aerial mounting. Mounting in Monster Hunter is something you can do by attacking a monster with an aerial attack and being lucky enough to latch onto their back for a true rodeo ride. Doing this usually involves jumping off of high ground, but in Monster Hunter Generations, they introduced the aerial style, which allows the hunter to jump high into the air simply by dodge rolling into a monster, making mounting much easier. So for Smash, I'll be incorporating this as the up special, but strap in folks, this one's a doozy. Upon using the up special command, this will have the hunter do a higher leap into the air, and that's it. But this is also a command grab special, as if they're close enough to somebody while they jump up, they'll latch onto them. So it is like Ganondorf and Captain Falcon's up specials. However, that's where the similarities end. For starters, you can cancel the leap by pressing the attack button before grabbing somebody, leading the hunter to use their forward air, the mid-air charge slash. Doing this will cancel all vertical momentum, however, and they will go into free fall afterwards. Now if you do grab someone, unlike Falcon and Ganon, the hunter will continue to just hold on to the foe, not letting them go. And from there, you can do a few things. If you don't press anything, and after stalling in the air for a bit, then the hunter along with their caught foe will begin to just fall, which can lead to some funny hunter sides if they're over a pit. If they're over the stage, however, when they hit the ground, the hunter will continue to keep the foe pinned down. From there, you can mash the attack button to have the hunter attack their pinned foe with their knife, just like when the hunter attacks a monster that they're mounted on. If you press the special button instead, the hunter will just throw the foe forwards, though it is a weaker throw than their normal forward throw. But this can still be a good thing to do, since at any point during this, whether they're falling or are pinned down, the foe can mash buttons to try to escape, which could leave the hunter vulnerable, though escaping becomes harder when the foe is at higher damage percents. Now going back to when you first grab the foe after the leap, if you choose to press the attack button while still in the air, this will have the hunter strike at the foe with their greatsword, dealing a lot of damage while sending the foe forwards. Doing this will also slightly propel the hunter upwards a little bit for some extra recovery. This won't put them into free fall, but they won't be able to use the up special again until they touch the stage. And finally, if you choose to press the special button after initially grabbing the foe, this will have the hunter jump off of the foe to get even more height. This might sound familiar, as the recently released Byleth also does this for their up special. And I couldn't help but laugh when Sakurai showed this, as I had this idea for Monster Hunter's up special for a good while now, long before Byleth was ever revealed. I even had the same idea to have the hunter send the foe straight down when they jumped off of them, but I thought that might have been too broken. That is until Sakurai showed how to make it balanced with Byleth, so I'ma steal that. When you jump off of a foe with the hunter, if they're at 49% damage or lower, then they'll only be slightly popped upwards as the hunter jumps up, not being sent all that far at all. But if they're at 50% of damage or higher, then they'll just be sent straight down as the hunter jumps up. So thank you, Sakurai! I hope you're getting enough rest! Anyways, finally for the down special, this will have Monster Hunter use their monster traps. It'll have them place a trap on the ground, which takes about 3 seconds for the hunter to set up. And if anyone other than the hunter steps on it, the trap will activate. There are 2 kinds of traps, of which both will be used here. Just tapping the down special will have the hunter start setting up the shock trap, which will paralyze foes if they step in it, rendering them unable to get away until they're no longer stunned. If you hold down the special button instead, this will have them set up the pitfall trap, which buries foes if they step on it. Pretty straightforward. Only 1 trap can be on stage at a time, and it'll only remain there for 45 seconds, after which it'll just break. You can't place a new trap if there's already one set up on stage. You can, however, dismantle the first trap yourself by pressing down special on the already existing trap. This takes no time to do, so you can just break the trap and start making a new one immediately if you wanted. The trap's placement is fairly obvious though, not even really hiding itself, so it's simple enough to avoid, but that's still a part of the stage that the foe no longer has access to. So this is a great stage control type of move for the hunter overall. And if you do get caught, well, then I hope you enjoy being a helmet. So I've made clear that all the attacks done by the Greatsword deal massive damage, perhaps even more when compared to other heavy hitters on average. But there's a reason for this. In the Monster Hunter games, the damage you can deal to monsters unfortunately isn't consistent, and will slowly do less and less damage over time as you fight. This is because of weapon sharpness, as your weapon will dull over time, and must be resharpened in order to go back to doing big damage. I'd like to incorporate this into the moveset. Every time you use the Greatsword, it slowly loses sharpness and deals less damage after every attack that you land with it. So you'll need to keep it consistently sharpened, and you'll be able to do this with the same button command used that the Inkling has to recharge their ink for their gimmick, holding down the shield button and the special button at the same time. You'll slowly sharpen the sword the longer you hold this command down. It leaves you vulnerable, but you can cancel the sharpening part way simply by letting go of the buttons, leaving that sharpness at whatever it was when you let them go. The sharpening animation will automatically end on its own as soon as the sword is fully sharpened. Now that's actually not it. There's a second gimmick that I'm giving to the hunter, and it's yet another thing that I thought of a while ago when I first built this moveset months ago, only for Sakurai to show off with another DLC character as well, this time Terry Bogard. Kinda. If you press the attack button while shielding with the Monster Hunter, they'll do a very quick kick forwards that can launch foes a fair distance away. It's not quite the same, Terry's only able to do his thing when he sidesteps, not shields, but same premise. This comes from being able to do a kick while blocking with the Greatsword in the Monster Hunter games. For Monster Hunter's Final Smash, this can be a cinematic Final Smash that starts with the hunter doing a powerful sword swing forwards, and anybody hit by the sword will be pulled in. From there, it'll show a monster charging towards the hunter, but they're quick to react as they mount the beast and hold on for dear life. While they do so, the monster will furiously try to shake them off, and as they do so, will hurt the caught opponents purely as collateral damage. Just like what happens when you play multiplayer in Monster Hunter. The smash will end with the monster shaking the hunter off and charging straight into the foes as it flees, causing them to be launched away when the cinematic ends. As for what monster it is, I'll go over that in a bit. Getting into the costumes, this was certainly an interesting thing to think about, as there are loads of different armor sets that can be forged for the hunters to wear. On top of that, there's also avatar customization as well, even allowing for different gender options. So I think I'm going to handle this a little differently than usual. I'm going to list off armor sets that are made from some of the most iconic monsters from the series, but then show both genders as I do so, instead of just trying to put specific genders into specific slots. And starting things off with what I believe will be the default costume, you can't deny the likelihood of it being the hunter in the Rathalos armor. He's the king of the skies and the mascot of the whole series, so it only makes the most sense. Plus, this is what was used as the default for the Monster Hunter and Marvel Infinite, so it only makes sense to assume that it is in fact the most iconic. Anyways, the second can have the hunter in the armor of Rathalos' wife, the queen of the land known as Rathian. Then we can have the armor set of the vicious Tigrex. Next is the armor of the supercharged Zinogre. Then the armor of the Lord of the Seas, Lagiacress. Then the armor of the mysterious Elder Dragon that isn't actually a dragon, Kirin. Next is the armor of the agile yet extremely deadly Nargacuga. And finally can be the armor of the blind yet destructive Gore Magala. Really, any of the armor sets could probably work. These are just the 8 that I feel personally are the most iconic after researching everything, but you're inclined to disagree. That said, going back to the Final Smash real quick, the monster that appears to ransack the fight could vary depending on what armor set you're wearing, with the monster matching the armor. I think that'd be a neat attention to detail. Though admittedly, this is the main reason why I made this a cinematic Final Smash. Some of these monsters are too drastically different to make for a consistently working Final Smash otherwise, so a cinematic one would just work better to allow this kind of thing. In any which case, for the stage intro, it can have the hunter fly in hanging onto a rope attached to a wyvern, just like how we see hunters get around in Monster Hunter World. For taunts, the first can show the hunter pulling out a huge thing of well-done meat and scarfing down the whole thing. Yummy. Also, for each of these taunts, the ever-loyal Palico can appear next to the hunter and do the same thing as their master, so it'll just be eating its own meal along with the hunter. The next taunt can have the hunter and the Palico take a load off and do the kickback gesture, and this could be a taunt that lasts for as long as you want until you cancel it by pressing any button. And the final taunt can have the hunter and the Palico do the actual taunt gesture as they goad their opponents. And finally, for victory animations, the first can show the hunter flexing their arms, then end with them putting their hands on their hips. This is a combination of two victory animations from the Monster Hunter games, with the flexing being a common one starting in Monster Hunter 2, and the hands on hips being from World. Also, the Palico will be behind the hunter doing their happy little kitty dance. The next can show the hunter cooking on their barbecue slab, then hold up their perfectly well done steak into the air in victory. The Palico will be there as well, scarfing down their own meal. And the final animation can show a random Poogie walk up to the hunter, and they'll respond by kneeling down to pet the cute little porker. Truly, the best victory. And that does it for What If Monster Hunter was in Smash. These games may be time-consuming, but boy are they fun. Among every series it's crossed over with, it's great to see Monster Hunter be represented in Smash the way it was, with Rathalos being an assist trophy and a boss. We may not be able to play as the hunter themselves, but we can at least have fun slaying the Crimson King with so many other great characters. Anyways, if you liked what you saw and would like to see even more characters be given possible Smash movesets, be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to support the show and help me be able to make more content for you guys while you also get some perks for doing so, you can click the join button either below the video or on my main page to become a sponsor for my channel. I'd really appreciate anything that can be contributed. And of course, if you have a character that you'd like to see be given a possible Smash moveset, leave a comment down below or contact me on Twitter at BrawlFan1 on Twit. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching!